Welcome to Patty's Aquatics. Now, a couple weeks ago, I put out the video about setting up this dirty tank for my Fahaka puffer. What I want to do today is kind of go over what to expect out of this dirty tank after it's been set up. So you just set up a dirty tank and you're not really sure what to expect to happen after. That's the situation I was in after I set up my first ones, and that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to try to show you what I have seen and dealt with my experiences of setting up all my dirty tanks. First and foremost, it may not look as pretty as when you first set it up after the weeks go on, but that's all for a reason. The tank is trying to stabilize, and so lots of things are happening and going on within the chemistry of this tank in those first few weeks and months even. Now, you're typically going to have very high nutrient levels within the water column of this style of tank when you first set it up, and it could last for a few weeks. Now, the best way to combat this and to keep an eye on it is to test your water. Whatever type of test kit that you have, you should use. I personally use the Aquarium Co-op test strips for my nitrates and nitrites, and then the API's ammonia testing. I cannot highly recommend more that you make sure you test your water after you set these tanks up. And these high nutrient levels, these are what's going to be the root cause for everything we're going to be looking at today and what you're going to expect. So knowing that you can have spikes of ammonia and nitrites in your tank, it's very important, like I said, to monitor them with your test kits. Now, in this tank right here, I never had any ammonia, but I have had some spikes in nitrites, and I'll tell you what I did with that in a second. But some of my past tanks, it all kind of varied. Some of them had nothing. It was just the nitrates that showed up, and some of them I had like a tinge of ammonia, and some of them just a little spike of nitrate themselves as well. Now with this tank, like I said, it had zero ammonia, but I did have some nitrites. What I did to combat it was I did some water changes with testing the water. Now, I typically wouldn't do water changes with these tanks. I would just kind of let them ride out and stabilize on their own. But since I had the puffer fish in here and it doesn't have scales, I really wanted to be on the safe side because I didn't want any potential disaster down the road because of it. So what I did was I would test the water, and if I didn't like how high the nitrites went, then I would do a water change. Then I'd kind of repeat that process over and over again. And every single time I did it, the nitrites would keep going down and down. And I just tested it right before this video, and it's down even more. So we're definitely going in the right direction to be stabilizing and not have to worry about water changes with it anymore. But the one big thing I did do to help combat all this is I added floating plants. So it's very important, like I said in that setting up video, to make sure you put in some very fast growing plants, because those are going to be very key and critical in this, because they are going to suck that ammonia and nitrites out of your water so much faster than anything else. Well, I can give you a closer look at the plants in this tank here. It's been 2 weeks since I set this up, and some of these plants have really taken off already. Now, the Dwarf Sagevelsonaria has new leaves shooting up within the main plant, and every single one of them have a few runners actually starting on 2 of them. The Ludwigia is actually growing pretty good so far too. My red tiger lotus plant has actually got new leaves started. The Pogostem stellatus octopus. I've got like 2 stems that are growing pretty much almost to the surface of the water already. And the floating plants have just been going nuts. Now, I only put those in there like 5 days ago. Now, granted, it's duckweed and hornwort, which are very fast growers, but that all tells me that they are feeding on those nutrient levels within my water column so much. And like I said before, that is the key, is make sure you put those fast growing plants in there. Not only are they going to grow fast, but they're going to help you balance your tank a lot faster as well. And then since you're going to have that overabundance of nutrients in your water, what that's also going to cause is algae. Now, I've had algae break out in some form or fashion in just about every single one of my dirty tanks after I set them up in the beginning. Now, my tanks run without filters, so it may be a little different to you. So every tank, obviously, like I said, has a different situation, a different plant, different bioload, different everything. But don't be surprised if you have algae breakout in your tank. It's completely normal because, like I said, of all the nutrients that are in the water. The plants can't eat it all, so the algae is going to thrive a little bit. But it will go away eventually. It's just a balancing act. This tank is balancing itself right now. Once it balances, the water parameters get under control, the nutrient level settles, and the plants start taking off and eating it, the algae then will start to fall back and die. Well, the one thing I don't like that I see growing in here is I have some blue-green algae, which is really not algae, it's called cyanobacteria. I believe they came from the plants. The plants were in this tank upstairs originally, and I did have a little bit of an outbreak of it in up there, and I thought I put plants in here that didn't have it on, but apparently I was wrong, so it's starting to spread a little bit, but it's okay. What I do to get rid of that is I use erythromycin. API's erythromycin, it kills it very quickly if you treat the tank. The problem with that is it's basically a bacterial medicine, and it could kill some of your beneficial bacteria from what I understand. So I don't want to put it in here yet because my tank is still kind of balancing, like I said. So after the tank is fully balanced, then I'll treat the tank and get rid of that. It works very well for that. I've used it in the past, but like I said, I don't want to treat that right now. I want to be able to get this tank settled and stable before I do any type of treatments like that. Another thing people might ask is, can I add fish directly after I set one of these tanks up? Now, to get into that, I'm not going to dictate to you what you should or shouldn't do. Everyone has their own skill level and knowledge level when it comes to this hobby. I can only speak for myself and my own experiences. I add fish right away, but I'm also the kind of guy that I'm in here testing my water every single day and monitoring it and making sure that everything is going to be okay. And if I have to do water changes or if I have to do whatever it takes to make sure that they're going to be okay. So that's me. So if you're not comfortable with it and you want to go without fish for a couple days to a couple weeks until your tank settles, that's completely fine too. So that question is completely up to you and how you want to answer it. But myself, I put them in right away. But like I said, everyone's different and their situations are different. So that's something that you got to decide for yourself. Now, another interesting thing that you may experience with these tanks, and it could be in the first few weeks to months even, is what it's called is sometimes your soil is going to burp. Now, what it does is it actually bubbles up like a big pimple, and it looks like your substrate is actually lifting up. Now, it's very interesting. The first couple times I saw it, it happened in probably 3 of my tanks. I was freaked out. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Basically, I just took a tool, stuck it in the substrate, and popped it, and then the gas bubbles will bubble up. It's normal from what I understand. It's basically gases building up within your soil, and from what I read, it sounds like it's actually a good thing. It shows that your soil is actually working. So, interesting thing to maybe see. Well, those are some of the things you could find or expect after setting up a dirted tank. Like I said, anywhere from ammonia or nitrite spikes, algae breakouts, green water, your plant's growing crazy, or maybe the plant's not growing well at all. Everyone's situation and setup is different. So if you've experienced something different, or you're just new to this and you have questions, feel free to leave them all in the comments. My goal with this video and future videos as well, with the inner workings of the dirted tank, it's really to help hobbyists out there. I know looking back for myself, when I first started this style of tank, I had so many questions and I looked at so many different social media and YouTube and forums, and there's just so much different opinions. And I just want to help anybody out there. And if you guys, like I said, you have comments or experiences, please share them, because that's all going to be information someone might be looking for that could help them down the road. And that's my goal. So if you like this type of video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. But if you do, make sure you hit that notification bell, because you don't want to miss any of those upcoming projects. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time here at Patty's Aquatics.